Hello everybody, Incon here, and we have got a massive, beefy, beastie patch, okay? I mean, big implications to gameplay for casuals all the way through competitive in terms of most notably map changes, a little, item god changes, but really most notably the new god and the map changes. This is patch 3.8. The perfect storm, and we're gonna get right into this with the god of the summer storm, or from watching the patch notes, the god of broken bullshit. But we'll see how this goes when we see some more numbers and stuff, and once we get him in game eventually this week on the PTS. So his passive is swift as the summer storm. For each trained ability that's on cooldown, so your 1, 2, 3, 4 if you have them ranked up. So you won't get all full passive at level 1 because you only have one ability that could possibly be on cooldown. He gains bonus movement speed. You get 4% per thing that's down. So if all 4 of your abilities are down, you get 16% bonus movement speed. Of course, as your abilities come back up, then you will slowly be losing 4% movement speed. As far as passives go, cool beans. It's a nice passive. Storm Kata. So this one ability is crazy, so let's kind of go through it. Susano moves thrice in quick succession. After each attack, he has up to 3 seconds to fire. So in between each one, he has 3 seconds, not 3 seconds total for the entire thing. So the first attack is a cone. Just think there's a wacha cone, 90% scaling, 70 through 210. The second attack is a giant circle that does 70 through 210 with 90% scaling. So this ability has 180% scaling with 420 damage at max rank, 140 base. On the third attack, it's a dash, does not do damage, but think like a nemesis dash, but just to get away. So you just wah, pew, and you dash away. The cooldown goes down to 12 seconds. That ability already looking super strong. 420 damage and 180% scaling. That's a lot of damage. Wind Siphon is you command the winds to blow. I know, right? Command them. Dealing not so much damage, 60 through 120 and 25% of physical power. But that's not the reason why you want this skill. You want it because it damages in a cone. Everybody in the entire cone, the cone is huge, takes damage. But in a smaller nemesis-sized cone, for her too, it pulls enemies like Hercules. So this god is an assassin. He's an assassin. Okay? He has a Hercules pull. Think about Hercules pull. You have to aim it. Barely aim it. You close your eyes and you pull whoever's there. It can pull multiple people throughout that little inside version of the cone. Nasty. Wind Siphon. Because he didn't have enough ways to get up to you at this point, right? So we've got big damage on the 1, plus a dash. We've got bonus movement speed. We've got a pull. Let's move on. Number 3. Throws forward a gust of wind, which if it misses, will go to a little area and just be a little circle, a itty bitty circle, little damage area. But if it hits somebody, it attaches to them. Does damage every 0.75 seconds for 3 seconds. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 procs of 80 damage at max rank. So that's 120% scaling. 30% times 4. So that does quite a bit of damage. You may activate the ability again and you teleport to wherever it is. Okay? So think Hunmax, how he can teleport with his monkey. He can teleport with this. But if you teleport with this, it reduces the cooldown by essentially half. It reduces it by 6 seconds on a 13-second cooldown endgame. Reduces it in half. If you have cooldown built, so let's say you've got 40% cooldown, 13 seconds base, so not quite half. So you're looking at 8 seconds minus 6. It literally has no cooldown. Anyway, moving on, surely that is the end of his brokenness and he has a crappy Ravenalt, but you'd be wrong. Susano summons a hurricane at his location that pulls towards the center, pulls people to the middle, okay? grows up to twice its size. He may activate the ability again to launch the storm in the direction he's facing, knocking up opponents in his path and dealing absurd amounts of damage because of 140% physical power scaling. So basically, this guy's a tough badass. He hits super hard. Gameplay application, I can't imagine this guy is anything but incredibly strong. You know, it's always hard to look just at kits and then, you know, without seeing the gameplay applications, but I can only imagine that he's going to be one hell of a jungler to deal with, especially now that speed buff is back. Spoiler alert. Yep, you're going to want to keep watching. He does have a reed color. He's handsome as hell. Like, I give him that, man. Like, he's a handsome-ass guy. But, man. Okay, so new skins. Vicious Apollo, going with the rock and roll theme. You know, we've got Thor, we've got Ryzen. We're going for the full rock band here. My personal favorite touch is the loots are for losers. I like that tattoo. That's hilarious. This skin's amazing. His ultimate, he's playing music the entire time, and he's like literally riding a nuke instead of a chariot. So that's all I'm saying. That skin is on point. This skin is also on point. This is a Janus skin. It is basically, for all intents and purposes, Geb Janus. He's baby Geb. He looks like Geb. He feels like Geb. He sounds like Geb. He's baby Geb that does way more damage. Way more damage. Next skin is Jokey Loki. That's the actual name of the skin. Jokey Loki. Listen to me, man. If you play Loki as a Conquest player, you're the worst. Okay, that's all. This will be part of a bundle. You'll be able to get 2 skins for the price of 1. Both of these skins, Jokey Loki and the Last Laugh Loki. After when the next patch goes, so when 3.9 launches, this will no longer be a package deal. You'll be able to get Jokey Loki, but Last Laugh Loki will be poof. Gone forever. You'll no longer be able to get it again. I can only imagine this is like a 400 gem skin. There you go. Jokey Loki, blah, blah. We have a new Mercury-esque skin. This is for Shibalanke, Jag.rar. Same thing as the Mercury skin. Ability colors change as the skin color changes as you play the game throughout time. Awesome skin. Awesome effects. You know, now you can play Mercury again too because speed buff is back. So look at that. Everybody wins. Or do they? New tier 2 skin for Nemesis. Actually, awesome. As far as tier 2 skins go, this one is on point. The weapon is actually quite different looking. It does the black and red theme, which is an amazing theme. I enjoyed this skin. As far as tier 2s go, tier 2s can be kind of lackluster, but this is a great tier 2 skin. So nothing's, you know, no recolor. There's no, like, animation differences or anything, but good skin, though. Good skin. Ryzen has his mastery cards. Gratch, Ryzen, you get cards. They're not going to be as cool as Let's Rock! So it doesn't really matter. Let's be real. Everybody's going to be using that skin. There's a new avatar. Hashtag Allied Strong icon. When 3.8 goes live, you're going to be able to enter the code hashtag Allied Strong into the redeem box, and it'll give you this icon for Allied. It's completely free. You just have to type in hashtag Allied Strong. 2016 ticket update. They're doing their first update to 2016 ticket to include new content unlocks. 8,000 is going to be an Enigma chest roll. 8,500 is that Vicious Apollo skin you saw above. And then 9,000 is going to be another Undying chest roll. So, for the biggest punches of this patch, we have to look at Conquest map changes. And so I'm going to try to go as much in depth into this as I can, guys. I've not been on PTS yet. I don't even think it's up yet as of the time that I'm making this video. I know it's not up. By the time this video is up, I can't imagine it'll be up because it usually comes up pretty late as well. So I don't have hands-on action, but I have seen with my eyes, for the most part, most of it. So we're going to talk about implications. Blah, 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 blah. We're making a lot of changes. Damn right you are. So quick note, just quick note. Maybe you can read through this. Doesn't really matter. I'll get to the other stuff. I want to comment on something really quick. So I love Pon. I love Pon. He's a good guy. He has a special place in my heart. But he said something today. He said something. So this patch, he's doing patch notes with Hindu, blah, 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 blah. And somebody had asked him about, new relics, about maybe like Combat Blink. Like, are we going to get Combat Blink back? Are we going to get new relics? And he said, well, we have DreamHack coming up. True. And we don't usually like to do big meta change type patches before we have, major events. To which I began to laugh my brains out as we're about to go into our Conquest map changes. And first, speed buff is back. That's all you should need to hear to know that that's hilarious. But anyway, I love you, Pon. Believe me, this is a much bigger change than just getting Combat Blink into the game. But anyway, let's continue onwards. The Conquest jungle is seeing a few adjustments. Added speed camp back to the jungle. So, the speed camp is now where blue buff used to be. So, where blue buff is on the map right now, that's where speed buff is. Okay? The solo lane boar has been removed, and the blue buff has been moved back to the solo lane. So, before it was blue towards the middle of the map, and then boar. Now it is speed buff, and then blue. Okay? Speed, blue. They increased the boar XP from 83 to 105. So, boars are now strictly on the duo side of the map. They now give more experience. Quite a bit more. They increased the boar gold from 29 to 50. So, those boars now give 100 gold instead of like 58 total. The fire elementals give 45 XP and 30 gold each. And they're now a single camp. Okay? So, when it says single camp, I think that means it's a single elemental. But I don't think so, because I think it means 45, 30 gold times 3, but I don't actually know. That's one of the things they didn't actually show in game, and I haven't played PTS. So I'm not 100% certain, but I know that there was a single dot on the map at the fire giant. So maybe it's just one. It just gives 45 XP and 30 gold. It's just one creep. Maybe. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Move the back harpies back to its original Season 2 location. So this is a huge change that kind of just got glossed over. So think about how close right now, especially on Chaos side, how close the back harpies are to the red buff on mid side, duo side, and on the other side to the blue buff. That's not the case anymore. The back harpies have been moved way back. So you probably will have to maybe change your start possibly, because you can't be doing both for the most part simultaneously, because you're not going to get credit for them. So you can't like have your hunter do backs while you're doing red, because you will not be in range to get credit for that kind of stuff. So a new start is going to have to be created to figure out what to do there. The back harpy respawn timer has been taken from 110 to 80 seconds. So the back harpy is now spawning a lot more, and they're way farther back. So this presumably means that the jungler or mid, whoever, is going to have to move a lot farther, a lot more often back towards your base, which is kind of what they were trying to stop from happening with Season 3, was they wanted people to stop moving backwards to get XP and start having to move forwards. So this is kind of reverting that. I guess they decided, no, we don't like that idea anymore, but you're going to be going backwards a lot more to get your back harpy XP. And then the boar timer has been adjusted from 110 seconds to 180. Of course, it's only on duo side now. But now that's a 3-minute spawn timer for boars. The major implication of this being that the boars were getting duo 5 if you got those boars at that first spawn. But now they're not going to be up, so it's going to be another wave fight, which means possibly less action over in the duo side around that level 4 or 5 mark like there had been around the boar camp, because the boars will not be up, so there won't be any camps to do. But maybe jungler will all be in early 5 or something because of the new back harpies. We don't know yet. We don't know. We're going to have to figure it out. So those are all the jungle changes. Major changes to the meta there that are going to, in terms of the junglers have speed buff again, so they're going to be ganking a lot more. The solo laner doesn't have his boar to farm anymore. It's just his blue camp. Will he be getting speed buff XP for the most part? Or is it just going to be the mid in jungle splitting that camp? Possibly. Will the jungler be able to not stay in the mid lane quite as much and be able to roam around more and look for more ganks because of the speed buff, so the mid gets more XP? Without the boar respawn timer in the duo lane, is there going to be less pressure in the duo lane and more pressure towards the solo lane? All kind of crazy stuff that can happen. Also, I don't know if it notes here, but they said that the fire elemental does not respawn anymore after the fire giant spawns. So that fire elemental is there until 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, it will no longer respawn. I don't know if it's up if it despawns. Does that make sense? So if it's already spawned while FG spawns, I don't know if it'll despawn. I just know that it won't spawn again. So that's important to note. So you can't farm it all game. It's just an early game thing for XP. Miscellaneous changes. Fix a couple problems. For those of you in clan chat was disappearing. They fixed that. They also made the consumable tree appear like relics to hopefully make that easier to see. Achievements nobody cares about. Item changes. So, y'all thought that was crazy enough with the new god and all those jungle changes, but we got item changes, and Bloodforge has been completely changed. It might as well not be the same item anymore. Bloodforge price increased by a bajillion gold. It now costs $28.50. The power increased by double. It now gives 75 power. And it has a new passive. So it still gives the lifesteal. Same lifesteal. Increased power, increased gold cost. The new passive. Killing an enemy god forges a shield from their blood with health equal to 200 plus 10 per player level for 20 seconds. So up to a 400 HP shield. And while you have the shield on you, you gain 20% movement speed. 20% movement speed. Now, you don't get like a Fatalis effect or anything, but just a flat 20% movement speed buff. I can only imagine that this might be a luxury item for junglers. Hunters, perhaps. It's a very expensive item to work into a hunter build, though, so I imagine this is going to go the way more so of assassins, so jungles. Gem of Isolation, cost reduced by 150. Nobody picks up Gem of Isolation. Maybe now people will. Probably not. People aren't really building that tree at all, so we'll see. Hardwood Amulet. Magical protection increased from 40 to 45 because the tier 2 item gave 45 protections, and then you upgraded it and you lost 5 protections, and you said, wait a second. Wait a second. Something is wrong. Higher than the minion line, fix a tooltip error. Incorrectly stating it reflected damage as magical damage. It reflects damage as physical. That's important to know. Not huge implications off of that, but like, that's pretty important to know, like, what type of damage you're supposed to be taking so you can build properly. So, tooltip fixed. Mail of Renewal having a pretty significant issue fix. Fixed an issue where player deployables were proccing Mail of Renewal. So, if you were going against AMC and he had Hive Nation set up in his lane and you were at 10% HP and, you know, y'all just had a good fight of the Gold Fury, so the team's wiped, right? And you lived because, you know, you're a good player. And you said, you know what? I can do some more health back. So you walked over to his lane from the Gold Fury and you just took out all of his hives, and then you were at 100% HP and mana again. Vulcan turret, etc. Yeah, so you were getting that Mail of Renewal proc. Shouldn't have been happening, now it's not. It went from not proccing on anything that it was supposed to proccing on too much stuff. Go figure. Rod of Asclepius getting a little bit of a buff. Health increased by 50, aura increased by 5%. Will it be effective? Probably not. Nobody's playing healers because healers aren't strong right now. Rod of Healing. Healing regeneration increased by 10%. So they basically gave the tier 2 going into Rod of Asclepius a little bit of aura to try to make it a better item for healers, to give them a little bit less of a build-up time getting into that bonus healing. Runic Shield and Witchblade both getting the same type of treatment here. I guess Witchblade's down below. Both of them are getting their price reduced. Auto attack builds are popular. Chronos, Kali, etc. are popular. Let's make sure people can actually buy the counter item and don't have to ruin their entire build by spending too much money. Spectral armor now has an effect when the passive is active. You get like a little circle on the inside of your character. It's kind of hard to see actually, but so that way you know if your spectral armor is procced. Stone of Gaia increased MP5 by 5. Woo! Now, an actual big change is Wind Demon. So nobody was picking up Wind Demon because nobody was getting anti-healing on crit. If you were getting anti-healing on an item, you were getting Brawler's Beat Stick. That's just what you were getting. So they said, screw it. Let's redo its identity. Same stats. But the passive, your critical hits now increase your attack speed and movement speed by 20%. So, I want you to think about this item really quick. If I recall correctly, it gives 40 power and 20% crit. And now, it also gives 20% movement speed, 20% attack speed. And because you've got more attack speed and movement speed, they can't get away from you, which means you're going to crit them more. So you have this effect on you until they die. It doesn't give a Fatalis proc, but it gives a headache proc. This item will 100% find its way into builds for characters such as probably hunters, and especially things like Collie. Nothing like a Collie on your butt with extra attack speed. That sounds like fun. Plus 20% movement speed because, you know, more movement speed than boots is a good thing. Let's hope they don't combine this with Bloodforge. Kill somebody with Bloodforge, get a 40% movement speed buff as they crit them. That would not be fun. So there's the Witchblade. Cost reduction 150. And now we're into God changes. So big changes on items was Wind Demon and Bloodforge. Both looking a lot more appealing. In the God changes, Artemis. So all they did with Artemis, they updated the graphics on her route. So for the player, it looks like a regular Artemis route, you know, the green circle. But for the enemy, it looks like a red glow on the ground, and it's hard to see. So the complaint was that Artemis skins were causing some traps to be harder to see than others, and it was true. It was basically too close to pay to win, as kids were too hard to see traps. So now, universally, the traps to you will still change, I'm pretty sure, with the traps that you use. But its appearance to the enemy will always be the same red glow, and it's pretty hard to see. Way harder to see than the original Artemis skin. Chalk, seeing a buff, increasing his slow by 5% at all ranks, which is kind of annoying, and increasing the damage on his ultimate by 50, which is fine. Chalk has been, like, kind of in the meta. Not, like, out of the meta, but not, like, certainly breaking the meta. He's gotten a couple games played here and there for, like, solo lane. Could this help him a little bit? Sure. He default wins the lane, so that's kind of attractive. Solo laners love winning the lane, so we'll see how important winning that lane is now that you won't be, like, stealing the enemy's boar and stealing the fire giant camps all game and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Freya getting a small buff. Her pulse time increased by 1 second. For early clear, like ADC Freya, it'll help a little bit. It should be about 1 extra attack. Same thing for jungle Freya. The bigger implication is that when you pop your 2 and then your 1, you should always be able to get your entire duration of your 1 out before your 2 runs out. So your last attack doesn't end up just going melee when you wanted it to be ranged. Kukulkan! Just getting a little fix here. Kukulkan's passive was not getting modified by Rod of Tahuti. Pawn said it ends up being like top build, like 25 power difference, so really it doesn't mean anything. But at least the game will be working slightly more correctly. Nemesis seeing a fairly large buff. Scales of Fate increase power gain and power loss from 4 to 6%. I believe that stacks 3 times. So that's from 12 to 18%, which is a big deal. And then Divine Judgment, protection stealing from 30 to 50% at all ranks. So this no longer scales. You will steal 50% protections at level 1 Reno with your ultimate. So that will be interesting and could very well bring Nemesis back into the meta. Would not be surprised to see her getting picked up a lot more, especially if the mid-clear battle becomes a little bit less important. Raijin seeing a buff and quality of life improvements because as much as everybody has been screaming Raijin OP, Raijin has like a really low win rate in across the board from casuals to competitive. So they're trying to fix that a little bit. Projectile speed on his 1 increase. That'll be nice because that ability sucks. Fixed an issue though where this ability would not stop on being silenced. So I guess that's a nerf. Now Nox can silence you out of it. Thunder Crash. Removed his collision pre-fire while invisible. And he will no longer be able to be stunned, silenced, etc. once he becomes invisible. That should allow him to better escape with Thunder Crash, be a lot more reliable, get interrupted less often while he's trying just to get away. And finally, his ultimate Taiko Drums. Time on the air increased from 3 to 4.5 seconds, which is pretty nice. That allows you to have more time to aim your ultimate. But the bigger change reduced the movement penalty from 75 to 40, so you can better follow opponents or continue to move backwards while using this ability and maybe dodge some other abilities so you're not a complete sitting duck while you're in it. Taiko Drums becoming a much better ability with these changes. Much better. Ravana. Increased the radius on Mystic Rush from 12 to 15. Also updated the tooltip to indicate it as a leap and not a dash. Sure, make Raven a little bit easier. I don't know if Raven needed a buff. He's like super in the meta right now, but I guess let's go for it. Scotty getting nerfed again. Calder still just too strong. Decreased Calder's basic attack damage by 10% basically at all ranks. Calder still just a little bit too strong. Trying to tone him down and make it less about Calder and a little bit more about Scotty. But let's be real. Calder's the real god. He's the real god. Vamana getting a little bit of a nerf, kind of. Reduced Umbrella power scaling from 100% to 70 on his 2. That's the cone ability that he has. Pretty decent nerf there, 30% scaling. And then, but put 20% scaling on Umbrella Ring, 10% on each hit. So 20% total. So minus 10% scaling overall. But they put the scaling onto the harder hit ability and took it off of the free to land ability. You can't miss Umbrella. It's not possible. So, Xing 10. Seeing a buff nerf? I think buff nerf is the way we're going with this. So, Furious Roar. They increased the duration by an extra second. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Decrease the dot damage from 4% per second to 3% per second. So it's actually the same damage there. But they increased the base damage by a little bit. But more importantly, so this is a buff a little bit. The more important thing is that because of the extra second duration, it keeps on the disable for an extra second longer, which is the minus attack power, I believe. The biggest buff is Hook Slam. Ability now roots instead of slows on the slam hit again. So they brought back the root. If I recall, old Xing 10 root was 1.5 seconds long. So congratulations, y'all did it. His root is back. But they nerfed his ultimate because they increased his casting time from 0.72 to 1.25. And it is like really apparent that he's ulting. They changed the animation where he's like, I'm ulting now. So, like, if you get hit by it, it's because all your actives were down and your jump was down and your hands were off your keyboard. And they tried to make the damage a little bit more clear on how it does its damage rotations, and the cooldown was reduced by 10 seconds. But that's the patch, guys. Huge patch. Crazy gameplay implications. PTS will be up soon. If you're watching this video, it's probably already up. So if you want to check it out before anybody else does, make sure you hit up the PTS and check out all these crazy changes. For you junglers out there, I'm sure you're like, screw regular client, I got my speed buff back. And for everybody else, they're like, speed buff is back. We can't get away from Cody. So we'll see how it goes, guys. Thank you for watching the video. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the patch, what you love, and what you hate. And thank you, everybody, for subscribing. It helps out so much. And as always, have a twitching day, y'all.